guys. Welcome to the Hot Tub Club where inspiration bubbles up. I'm your host, Samara Renee. And today it's just a solo episode with me, which is like one of my favorite things to do is just to talk to you guys about what's happening in the world, in the news, and we're about to get real with it. So today's episode is all about the immigration raids in Los Angeles. I thought that this was a perfect topic to talk about because it's happening like now in real time and it's impacting a lot of people and it's happening in my hometown of Los Angeles. So make sure you guys subscribe to my podcast so that you guys are up to date on all of the fun, wonderful conversations that we are having with our guests as well as everyday news. So, with that, let's get started. We're going to talk about the raids that are happening in Los Angeles. And I took some notes because I have been watching on mostly social media. And the reason why I have been watching mostly on social media is because the news stations, there are a couple of news stations that you thought you could trust back in the day. Unfortunately, what we're seeing in the time of Trump is that a lot of these media outlets and like big media outlets like ABC, CNN's also getting censored, and of course the dreaded Fox News that I personally do not recommend anybody ever watch that because it's all fake news. So I personally feel like I am staying in contact with the news through social media and through the Midas Touch podcast. So if you guys are not familiar with that, it's one of the most popular podcasts right now because it's really the only place where you're getting the full story of what's happening and not the story that our government wants us to believe, which is that Los Angeles is a bunch of ruthless hooligans that are running around and they're going to destroy our whole town. So let's talk about facts about what's happening. So several days ago, I believe it was last week on Friday, that the ICE agents, let's back it up. Okay. It all actually started in San Diego. Okay. This is where all hell broke loose. And San Diego, I have been a San Diego resident for almost 20 years. And I have to say, I was very proud of San Diego. So we had some ICE agents that came through South Park here in San Diego, and they came specifically to hit up a local restaurant that's very popular, delicious food, I must say. And it was during the middle of dinner time, which is like the worst time. And they came in and they just basically started taking people out and dragging them like they were criminals out and not showing a warrant that they had. And in the time of social media and people having cell phones, people started hearing about this and started coming out in large numbers and calling their friends and saying, hey, we got ICE agents in the area. We need to come up and we need to stand up against these guys and protect our people. These are the simple things in life of just having your local restaurant where you know the people and you see them all the time. They become like your friends. It's like the comforting place where everybody goes. And the people that are there, to all of us, they're just people. We don't really think too much about if they're documented or undocumented. They're just people. And so all of these people came out and basically with mass force really showed the ICE agents that they were not wanted in the area. And they really put up a good fight, not violent, but very strong words. And basically that kind of went viral all over social media, all over the media of basically how the San Diego residents stepped up and said, not in our town, not in our town. So we're the closest city to the border. So we are very used to seeing Border Patrol throughout the area, especially where I live. We have a checkpoint that's about 30 minutes away from us near Camp Pendleton. We're used to seeing that. But the ICE agent they're taking it to a whole nother level. Let's talk about what is actually wrong about this situation and why I feel the need to talk about it. And number one is that these ICE agents are coming masked, okay, not showing their faces of who they are. They're coming and they're snatching people from stores, churches. I just heard a report about ICE agents going to churches, going to schools, going to all of these different places. I even heard the car wash that they're going there. And basically, they're looking for people that fit a certain profile. Let's be real, it's racial profiling. So they're looking for certain people and they're going in and they're taking them without question. So, which I don't even want to call him our president. I will say Trump. I'm going to refer to him as Trump. Okay. So Trump basically said that he made his promises. And I will tell you, as a part of the 92% of Black women who voted against Donald Trump, we knew, we were told by Kamala Harris that this is part of their plan. She laid out several things about what was going to happen, and people just thought she was making things up and trying anything to do to win. And she was right. So all of these clips from her campaigns are coming out and you're seeing like she's hitting on all these points. She talked about the ICE raids, how they're not just going to take the people that they're saying they're taking, which is they're saying we're looking for criminals specifically. They're taking everyone. They're taking children. They're taking grandparents. They're taking people who have no criminal record. They're taking people without their documentations, which is a signed warrant for their arrest. So they're doing a lot of things that are illegal. Our Supreme Court is crap on a stick. They were all planted there and put there by Trump himself because this plan has been in action. This plan has been developing for years and is now basically being put into place. And we were warned about this. And it's all happening. It's all happening in real time. So, as a Black woman, I'm not surprised by any of this. Did I ever really think that they would call the military out to go to Los Angeles? I didn't think he would be that bold, but evidently he feels like he can do whatever the F he wants. And so that's what happened. We had San Diego went down. That was like the poster child of what a community can do when they come out in numbers and they used their voices and they basically pushed them out and said, you guys need to go. A lot of the information and major protests are happening up in the LA area, but specifically they're going into Hispanic neighborhoods as well, Hispanic neighborhoods as well as Koreatown, Chinatown. They're going to specific areas, but they're really hitting it hard for people of Mexican descent. So they're going into places that where I grew up. They're going into La Puente. They're going into Whittier. They went to even Pasadena of all places. I was like, Pasadena is like, we know there's a lot of Hispanic people, but like, seriously? The first place that they hit was a town called Paramount, which is not too far from Compton. Bad idea. I don't know who came up with the idea that that would be the first place in Los Angeles that they thought would be appropriate to hit. But you don't come out and go to a town that's near South Central. You just don't do it. So the genius, whoever came up with that plan, was really dumb. So that was the worst thing they can do. All of this rage started happening. And of course, word started spreading. I'm going to talk about overkill. Overkill in the response. So basically, all of these ICE agents came in pretending that they're our military, basically. They came in with helicopters landing on the streets. And we had that happen here in San Diego County, where they came in with all sorts of random stuff. Here, also in LA, they came with tear gas. So all of this was planned. Came prepared to do battle. That's what they came for. They were expecting an uprising. What they didn't realize is that a majority of the people who were coming to protest, they were pissed, but they knew that if they were going to go riot the streets, it wasn't going to hurt them. It was going to hurt our city, the city that we all love, the city of angels, right? All hell broke loose and the protest began. And of course, whenever there's a protest, there's always somebody or a group of people that will come into the area and they want to tag on stuff. They want to break windows. They want to destroy businesses. These are not the people who are meant to be there. These are people who like to cause trouble. Unfortunately, the last that I heard was around 200 people. Now, if you think about it, like compared to all the thousands of people who have come out, it's been really peaceful. Fortunately, with the bias of the news and with the pressure of the Trump administration on our media outlets, we are not getting the full facts. If you've seen the pattern over the past couple of months, you will notice that there are a lot of people who have been very outspoken, a lot of media reporters who have been released from their jobs, basically fired, or they were told that their contract was not being renewed. One of those reporters is Don Lemon from CNN Week. ABC let Terry Moran go, basically because he spoke the truth. And evidently, ABC got a phone call from the White House, basically saying they needed to do something about him. And one of the things that people are not really privy of is that Trump is suing a lot of the media outlets because he says they said something that was really bad about him and it wasn't true. So basically, they're saying that it was detrimental to him or whatever. So he's suing everybody. So the whole media is walking around scared right now. So nobody has any guts here in the US, and this is what pisses me off. Our media has completely gone flat. So this is why we have Don Lemon was the first reporter to start it, that he started going on social media. He started his own podcast, TikTok's reporting, and showing really the truth of what was going on throughout all of the craziness over the past 6 months. And unfortunately, this pattern has continued, and there's been several reporters that have been let go, as I mentioned. And so podcasts like the Midas Touch podcast that came about, and we have these guys that are just going out for the truth. And even on social media, that people are reporting people who are against what they're saying, which is truthful, and fans of the Trump administration are reporting their page on TikTok. And so they've had to come up with different pages to get the message out. And the amazing thing is, once a lot of the citizens of the US started to wake up a little bit about the truth of really what was happening, that they realized that the news that they were hearing wasn't the full truth. They weren't getting the full story. And so their podcast quickly started gaining followers. I think they have like 5 million followers right now. Anyways, so back to the raids over the past couple of days. So all hell broke loose. Yeah, there were people who were out there causing trouble. There were people who were throwing stuff at the ICE agents. Hell, I don't blame them. I personally felt rage. I personally felt like they were invading our town. Now let's talk about the immigrant community and the makeup of Los Angeles. I take this very personally. And the reason why is because I grew up in a mainly Hispanic neighborhood and I have a lot of Hispanic friends. And these are some of the most hardworking people that you will ever meet. And they go above and beyond to work hard, sometimes the most menial jobs. And this is to improve the lives of their family. A lot of them have come up from Mexico or different areas in Central America to have a better life, just to get a good paying job so they can send money back home, to make sure that their kids get the education and are able to go to college. And people in our communities, especially here in California, this is what's special about California, is that we're all able to live in peace and harmony in majority of our areas with people of different races. And that's the beauty of Los Angeles. It's just a melting pot of people from all over the world, and we're able to live in harmony. And that's why it's such an offense on the Mexican community, particularly, this is the joke, is that originally with the natives of California and places like Texas used to be part of Mexico. Okay, this is the joke. Okay, so the thought of getting rid of Mexicans is never going to happen. I don't know what people are thinking, but the simple fact that these ICE agents are allowed, have been allowed. We'll talk about the children in a second because that really just has pissed me off. They are pulling anybody and everybody off the streets right now. They're not asking questions. They're not giving people time to call anyone. They're not treating them very well in these detention centers. It's just inhumane conditions. And we are all humans. And it doesn't matter. And this is the thing. This is the joke of it all, is that everyone's just going along with this. Nobody is questioning. Nobody is saying, you know what? No, no, no. We have pride in what we do. We're not doing that. No one's putting their foot down and saying no. They're saying, "Oh, well, the president said." I would be like, "So what?" I understand people got to make money, but when you come down to it, if you're asked to do something that's unethical, then I would think that you should just I don't know, I would hope that you would make a better decision for yourself and have integrity, but I guess there's a lot of people who don't have integrity. So the joke of it is we had these, riots. It wasn't even a riot. Okay, we've had riots. Okay, I'm from the age of the 92 riots in LA. Okay, that was a riot. That was a great riot. Okay, what's happening now? It's basically a very small area of Los Angeles. It is tiny. Okay, they have like I don't even know if it's like 2 to 3 mile radius that has a curfew. The rest of Los Angeles is hanging out and going on with our lives. Period. That's what's happening here. So I was mentioning the media outlets. So there's a lot of things. I'm going to be honest. I have no respect for Fox News. Anytime I see anybody that's watching Fox News, I just tell them, I said, you know what? You're not getting the full truth. And I can't believe you're watching this. I mean, I can't get over. I have no respect for them. And I said, you're listening to this fake propaganda? Like, seriously? Come on now. Like, get with it. So, a lot of the things that I'm listening to and reading is LA Times, their social media, they're on the ground getting the information. So, I'm looking for media outlets that haven't been tainted or who are not afraid to put out the truth. So, we've had all sorts of crazy things. People are getting pulled off the streets. The ICE agents are showing up at schools. So let's talk about the schools because I got a bone to pick with the ICE agents coming in. And this is what's low about Trump is how can this is what tells you this man has no soul, okay? He has no soul because he doesn't care if children get separated from their parents. He doesn't care that these kids are not criminals because they were only supposed to be looking for criminals. They just want them out because they're Mexican, basically. They're saying, oh, well, they're illegal and they should go through the process. Like, let's get real. The whole idea of the Make America Great Again, quote unquote, it's really underneath it is saying make America white again, which America has never been white. It's always been a land of immigrants. So I've always had an issue with that, and anybody who's a Trump supporter, I really have no respect for, and I know plenty of them, and I will tell them to their face. So, back to everything that's happening. So, all of these people and communities are getting hit in Los Angeles. These are areas that I'm familiar with. They've even gone into Chinatown and Koreatown, and I have friends that live there as well. And, these are the people that are there for the whole community. These are like the great restaurants, our manicurists. Like you were thinking of all the people who've been impacted, the great stores, the great Mexican grocery stores where you can get great carne asada, the Mexican restaurants. Honestly, I don't want someone who is not of Mexican descent cooking my Mexican food. I'm sorry. I don't care if they're legal or not, as long as it's authentic. That's all I care about. I no, there are plenty of people that are asking, well, why didn't they go through the process? A lot of these people have been in the process. The whole immigration system is messed up. There are some people who are here illegally, and I don't know why they haven't gone through the process or they've been here for years. And I don't know. There's some people who want dual citizenship and they haven't been able to get that. I don't know the reasoning why some of these people don't have immigration status, but they're also trying to strip the right for children who are born here in America to have legal status. You're trying to strip that too. And it's really just, it's sad. We really have regressed back at least 80 years. When I was seeing the ICE agents going through all these different towns, I really had a flashback to seeing the Nazi movies and documentaries about World War II. That's what immediately popped up in my head was that vision. I said, "Oh my god, this is the Nazi movement happening in real time in 21st century, and we have completely gone back to a time that should have never happened again." And it's really disgusting. But as I'm speaking to you now, I am not out protesting. I am making my voice heard through my podcast. And one of the things that the Black community has been doing since this new administration has come into power is that instead of us being out there doing a fight, we're tired of doing a fight. So all of these protests, there are groups within the Black community that are telling us not to go out protesting. And if you are watching the news or watching social media, you're not going to see Black people out there with them. And the purpose is because it just seems that whenever there are Black people involved in protesting, it takes the element of safety out of the mix. It really does. And the police take up things to a whole nother level. And unfortunately, that has been happening since the civil rights movement, even before, and it has to do with fear. And unfortunately, people are intimidated of Black people, and that's just the way it is. So it's better, and we're hearing that, and people are saying, "Well, why aren't Black people out here? Why aren't they protesting? Why haven't they been protesting at all?" And it's because we tried, especially Black women. We did everything we could to communicate the seriousness of voting for someone who we knew is deranged and who doesn't care about people and who doesn't care about you. And I could go into the thing. The immigration raise is just one bone I have to pick. We can talk about Medicaid, which is going to deeply impact millions of people throughout the country, in particular the people that I work for and that I serve, which are people with special needs. And that's going to dramatically impact their lives and the quality of life that they have. And it's going to make a lot of people bankrupt, unfortunately. And it goes on and on and on. And it's disgusting. We can talk about national parks. You're trying to take land and turn that into producing fossil fuels and oils and things like that. And these places have been set aside by President Biden before he left and the White House, and everything has been rolled back, and it has been a fight, in particular to national parks. Since day one, I think it's just been like a battle to try to hold on to these national parks and really tried to get these people back. The whole problem, I mentioned the media, the president's overreach, the threatening of arresting our California governor, Gavin Newsom. It's just ridiculous. It's really just a big bully who is really overreaching and overreacting. And the purpose is to distract us from many things, but he's really trying to distract us from the large cuts that they're making to Medicaid. And it's going to the last round to the Senate to be voted on, and are trying to sneak that in. And if you really pay attention, that they're doing a lot of the voting in the middle of the night because they don't want people to stop them. And people need to be really pay attention to that and what's happening. They don't want anyone involved. They want things to go their way. They don't want any pushback. They want their agenda to go through, and they don't care what they have to do it. Do you think that they care if your family loses their SNAP benefits? They don't. Do you think they care if you have your papers and you're following the process with immigration? They don't care. They were arresting people who showed up for their immigration hearing. That's what's messed up about this whole situation. These are the people who were doing the right thing. These are the people who wanted to follow the rules, and they followed the rules and they got burned, unfortunately. So, as you can tell, I'm not impressed with this situation. So, I watched all weekend long what was going on. Then the president decided, hey, I'm going to call up the National Guard. And he overstepped. And that decision is supposed to be made by our governor. And this is just an example. He made Los Angeles an example. And the thing that our governor is trying to stress is that if you see this happening in Los Angeles and they're trying to do this here, they're coming to your town next. And look what's happening. Gavin Newsom, I'm not like super a fan, but I do appreciate that he's standing up and saying, no, not on my watch. And he keeps standing up to him. And he said, come arrest me. Let's do this. I'm ready. You know where I'm at. I like it. But the whole thing is that it's just dumb, and that people's lives are really being impacted by this. And the lack of humanity that is happening and that we are witnessing and that people are seeing, and a lack of caring, is unbelievable. This is something that I have to speak up on, because people are forgetting that we are all humans living on this small blue planet. We are all walking the same walk. It doesn't matter what country you come from. All people want is a place to lay their head that's safe. They want to educate their children and to find work. That's the main point. That's the main purpose, is that people want to feel safe. They want to have opportunities for themselves and for their children, and they want to receive education. And unfortunately, in some countries, they don't have that opportunity. And it's just really sad that our country has become the laughingstock of the world. And what used to be the pride, I remember I used to have so much pride when I would go outside of the country and, people would be like, "Oh, you're American." I'm like, "Yeah," I was really proud about that. And nowadays, when you travel outside the country, you try not to stand out as an American because it's not a positive thing. It's not a positive thing anymore. And it's really sad to say that, because this is or was the land of opportunity for so many people. And the fact that even college students that have come to the US to be educated here are getting their visas revoked based off of them speaking about Gaza and the horrible atrocities that are happening in Gaza. That every time I see photos of what's happening there, it just makes me sick to my stomach that this is a game for politicians, and these are lives. These are children. These are families that have no homes, that their homes have been completely destroyed. We know who's at fault in that situation. War doesn't help anybody. It's bad for everyone. And that's why we really need to seek for peace and diplomacy. But I can go on and on about that. But when you see something, you gotta say something and speak out about it, and that's why I'm talking about this today. But to see this happen in our own country is pretty disgusting and pretty shameful, and there seems to be no stopping of this because our Supreme Court are a bunch of punks. I was gonna say another word, but it's not really, like, a word I would use, and they're basically bowing down to him, and they have no backbones, and it's really disgusting. So, where do we go from here as Americans? What do we do? How do we stand up? What can we do? Well, our options are very limited. We have very few representatives that are stepping up, in particular, if they're Republican. They are a bunch of weak men and women who have no dignity, who have no ethics. And so the people who are doing what we can to fight against this are not getting very much support. And a lot of people are running scared right now. We're talking about all the things that are wrong. What can we do? Well, if you're comfortable with protesting, I encourage you to get out there, put pressure on your representatives. If you have ICE agents in your town and you happen to know where they're staying, I have seen a great strategy is to make them so uncomfortable that they have to leave. So there, for instance, in Pasadena, I was seeing some shots that the ICE agents were staying in a couple of the hotels there, and the community ended up finding out about it. I think some local politicians found out about it, and they kind of just told the public that oh yeah, they're here in town and we know where they're at, and it kind of leaked out. And people started coming there and standing in front of the hotels and protesting, and peacefully protesting, I will say, peacefully. And they were so uncomfortable by that, by having all of these people showing up, that they ended up having to leave the hotel. I don't remember if the hotel asked them to leave based off of what was happening, but they left. And so I think that's a really good strategy. Another great strategy that I've been seeing, and which I really love about the Mexican community, is that they're using their music, you're using the dances that their culture is well known for. They're bringing the mariachis out. They're bringing that flavor of family and community for people to see. And I think that's a great strategy. I think it's a great strategy when you have news reports and you're seeing people who are peacefully protesting and they're dancing and they have the mariachis out and you're singing and they're dancing. Because if people are singing and dancing and then you have rubber bullets being shot at you, that's not good, because that's telling you right there that they're doing a peaceful protest, because they're not throwing things at you. They're not yelling at you. They're sharing their culture. I've seen many strategies. I just saw another strategy that some of the protesters that are using is that they're laying flowers at the feet of the National Guard. And they're saying, we know you're in a tough spot. We know that you have to make money and blah, blah, blah. Like, we know you're being used as pawns. We're here for peace. We're not here to hurt you guys. We're not here to destroy the federal building, even though most people really want to. But we're here to broker peace. We're here to protect the people in our community. We're here to protect the children who have nothing to do with this and who didn't ask for the situation. We're here to stand up for the people who are not being treated like human beings. We're here to stand up for that. And as much as I want to be in the street, I know right now this is not what we should do. So I love the strategies that I'm seeing: peaceful protesting, writing to your senator, your congressman or person, I guess I'll say congressperson now, and also writing letters is a great thing, but standing up, speaking up, if you are on YouTube, if you have a podcast, this is the time to start speaking up and sharing your opinion. This is your time to start pointing out the things that are wrong. Correct people if they have misinformation. So anytime I hear anybody saying, "Oh, I saw this on the news and this is what's happening in LA," I correct them and I said, "This is the truth. This is what's happening with people on the ground. People who live there, this is what you're saying. This is what you're showing." And there's a lot of misinformation saying that LA is just in flames and people are running through the streets and going crazy. And it's a really small, small area. And the rest of the city and the rest of the county is fine. There are people who are peacefully protesting and not rioting. There's no rioting happening. Yeah, there are some people that come and loot. We have an issue here in LA where there are groups that will do a big mass group looting. That's been happening, and that's a major problem that we have here in LA, and the LAPD need to deal with that. Unfortunately, when you have the LAPD and then you have the National Guard who's not communicating with you, you have the ICE agents, you have all these different people. The more people that you bring into the mix who do not know the area, the chance for bad things to happen. As we saw in the first few days of these raids with police officers and National Guard members who are shooting rubber bullets and were hitting journalists. Okay, these are people who had the vest on that said press. These people were getting taken out. I mean, I've seen at least 2 reports of 2 reporters who got hit with rubber bullets, and they were just doing their jobs. They weren't doing anything bad. They were being pushed back because they were too close to the federal building. I mean, they were like hundreds of feet away, but they just didn't want anybody near it. So nobody's safe. This is the whole point of this podcast and speaking out about what's happening, is because if this is happening to one segment of our population, which is the Hispanic and Mexican culture, and now it's happening to people of Asian descent and they're coming to their neighborhoods. There's a lot of Asian neighborhoods in LA County and a lot of Mexican neighborhoods. Why wouldn't they do that to anybody else? Why wouldn't they try to do that to people who look like me? So we need to put a stop to this. So whatever you can do, I would just encourage you to do it peacefully if you can. I know, like, I'm furious. I'm angry. I want to throw things at people, but stand up. If you know that there are ICE agents, please help to educate the people around you that you know that are not documented. Let them know what their rights are. Let them know that there are immigration attorneys that they can speak to and that they do have rights and that they don't have to open their door if they come to their door. There are so many people who are running scared right now. They're coming to sporting events where a large majority of the Mexican communities likes to go to, like soccer games and things like that. And it's just they're targeting their community, and it's just really, really sad. And so if you have that in your heart to just let people know that you know that they're immigrants, that you're there for them, you know that they're suffering, that they're hiding. If you want to help them out, if that's your choice, I would encourage you to support that. If you know that there are children in the school that are also have families that are immigrants, and a lot of these people are staying home. I know that there are several teachers who have posted online about having kids in their class for their parents don't have their documentation yet, and they're not sending their kids to school and they're hunkering down at home because they're afraid. And there are teachers who want their kids to continue to get the education, so they're sending homework. They're going above and beyond. They don't have to do that. They do it because they want that kid to have that opportunity to continue to learn, and that they don't deserve this. Their families don't deserve this. And the thing that was new to me was I didn't realize that immigrants who work here in the US, I had no idea that they had to pay taxes. So, which I thought is crazy, but evidently they pay their taxes too. And that a large majority of people who live in LA, I believe it's like something like 38 or 45%. It's like a really high number that our whole town, our freaking Los Angeles is a Mexican word. It's a Spanish word. All the streets and the towns, San Diego, Spanish, all of these cities are part of Mexican culture and Spanish culture. So it's kind of a joke. And then even the greatest joke of all is all of these guys that got called up from the California National Guard, which it's not their fault. We know it's not their fault. They got, bullied by the president that they had to show up, blah, blah, blah. But most of the National Guard are Mexican. And so they're reading off all the names on their badges, and it's like Ramirez, Gonzalez, Hernandez. And it's just like, and it's so sad because they feel like they don't have the option. They don't have the option to say no. I don't know what to tell them, but I know that I would not be comfortable being in that position and having people yell at me and be yelling my name. And I know a lot of these ICE agents are covering their faces because they don't want people to know who they are, and people are finding out who they are, and it hasn't been good for them. So I get it. I know people are in a hard position, but you also have to do what's right. And if you know that it's not right to go to a child's school, which is against the law to go and take a child out of a school without their parents' consent, just so you know. And schools are not supposed to release a child to anybody other than anybody on their emergency contact list. I got a major issue with that. That has happened. People are not able to go to their children's graduation, and their kids don't want to go to their graduations because they're afraid that there's going to be ICE agents outside their school ready to pick up their parents. It's pretty tragic. So, whatever you can do in your own small way to speak out about this, help your neighbor, help them, connect them with the information that they need to know their rights. I know there's a lot of groups that are coming together and they're going into these neighborhoods when they get a call about ICE agents that they're showing up with megaphones and letting them know their rights and saying that you don't have to open your door. Don't be afraid. We're here. This is what you need to do, and giving them instructions because a lot of people are running scared. So, whatever small way that you can help, please help. If you are part of the National Guard, I'm so sorry that you are in this mess and that the president really did not have the right to call you guys up. I feel really bad about that. And yeah, it sucks. It really does suck. I feel bad. I know a lot of those guys, especially that are, of Mexican descent, are just, they're hearing it from their community right now. And it's not good. It is not good. I'm sure they feel a lot of shame for that. And my thing would be is if you're getting ordered to do something that you know is wrong, please have the guts to not do it and to stand your ground. And the more people who stand their ground against this stuff, the better it will be. And so what they're estimating is that they're saying it's going to be another 30 days. I'm not buying that. I think that it's going to be longer. This is a time for the communities to step up. When you see ICE agents in the area, record. That's another thing people can do, that you have the right to record what's happening and to ask questions. And also just make sure people know that they have rights, and that I'm also seeing a lot of people checking in with people because they're afraid they're going to get picked up off the street. And make sure that if you are documented, to just keep your papers with you and make photocopies of those and keep copies of that in your Google Drive, all of that stuff. I'm sure there's so many other people who have better ideas than I do, but whatever you can do to help somebody right now, that's the greatest thing. And to speak out against this and to not let us be bullied, especially here in the state of California. This is not the place that's going to be bullied. We have freedom to be who we are. We have freedom to live our lives and to enjoy our lives in this beautiful state. And we want to continue that. And we're not going to let a president tell us what we have to do when they're 3,000 miles away. So we're going to do whatever it takes to push these guys out. And we want to do that peacefully. We really do. So we're hoping that the president will make the right decision and that Mr. Trump will want to back down and take it back because he likes to backpedal. And so we're hoping he'll backpedal on this. And we are keeping an eye on you, Mr. Trump, with what you're doing, with the many things that you're doing. There's so many. There's too many to count. And there are very few solutions to dealing with this guy. It's either you gotta bow down to him or you have to outsmart him, and he's not a dumb guy. He's really not. He's not a nice guy. And Mr. Trump, just back down, bro. Like, just stay in your lane. He just needs to stay in his lane, stay in your Mar-a-Lago, doing your golf thing, and just like leave us alone here in California. Like, we don't want you guys here. Just let us do our thing. We can deal with our problems. That's what LAPD is for. Send the Marines back. They need to be training for bigger things than this. Like, we do not need your help. We didn't ask for your help. We don't want your help. And honestly, things are not as bad as people were saying. So that's like my number one point is LA is not burning down to the ground. Thank God. We only had that during wildfires. And we really don't need their help. Okay. The time that we really needed help, okay, Mr. Trump, is when we had the wildfires. That would have been a good time to call up the National Guard and also call the Marines in for some additional support. That probably would have been a very appropriate time, but you didn't do that. So it's a little annoying that you're going overkill right now, but whatever. I don't have respect for you, Mr. Trump. I'm sorry. And you know what? I don't care. And I'm sure you don't care. And I don't care about you. So that's why I'm saying that. So, anyways, yes, yeah, I'm exercising my right to speak and share my opinion. And if you don't agree with that, that's okay, because I really don't care, because this is my show. Thank you. We can have a podcast and talk about what you want to talk about, but this is my show. I can do what I want. So, yes. So let's remember all of this, that we're all human beings and that we need to do whatever we can to support the dignity of every human person, no matter what their immigration status is. That's the point of this whole show. And to do what you can in your small way and to stand up in your own small way. Don't be silent and don't allow yourself to be silent. I'm not going out protest because that's not what our community is doing right now, because we don't think it's going to help you guys. However, we do have your back. We can pick up a phone. We can write to our local and state and federal leaders, some leaders and some not. And you can support our California governor if you're living here in the state of California right now, and stand up. And if people are sharing mistruth, correct them. I think that's the best thing you can do. LA has its areas of problems, but for the most part, LA is really nice. And just like any city, you have your rundown cities. Similar to San Diego, we have our areas that are gorgeous and beautiful. And we have our parts of San Diego where we have a really bad homeless population. And unfortunately, it's a lot of veterans. And that's something that's really hard to see, but it doesn't make our towns any less wonderful and great. And to wrap up this episode, to any of the people who are listening to this podcast, especially like friends that have family that have immigration status, just know that I am with you, that I have your back, that I'll do whatever I can to help to support you guys right now. And I'm doing my part right now to speak up against this and really encourage and pray that these immigration raids will cease immediately through the intercession of Our Lady of Guadalupe. So I am with you guys. I love my Mexican Americans. I love my undocumented friends who are Mexican. I love the Mexican community. I have so much love for you guys. I'm keeping hope. I'm keeping hope, and just keep the hope alive and keep standing up. Let's do it peacefully. Show your culture. Be proud of your culture, and we will definitely get through this drama. So with that, I am going to wrap up this episode. Make sure you guys subscribe. I may be taking a couple of weeks off to give myself a little break and record some new episodes that will be coming up. So I'm considering taking some time off and taking a moment just to breathe. Probably not breathing. I think I'm going to be working on some other business stuff that I want to get done. But just know that I am preparing for our next season of the Hot Tub Club podcast. We have BTS coming up in a couple of weeks. Can't wait for you guys. I really should bring my podcast with me on. I'm going to bring my microphone with me while I'm gone, but it's going to be great. And I can't wait. And so remember that you are worthy of dignity and respect that you are welcome anywhere that you are, no matter what your nationality is, your immigration status as well, and know that you are loved and that we want you here, that we love you, especially all of our friends in San Diego and LA, that we love you guys and we got your back. And with that, I look forward to seeing you guys all in our next podcast.